Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Sumokobi Richard. Welcome to Econometrics by Richard. Okay, last class we talked about the VAR, how to correct for the serial correlation. We found out that serial correlation is the most important thing, and the stability test using the AR root graph for the inverse root analysis, so that if the dots are inside the circle, which means it is stable, and then we did the serial correlations, and we have to look for a way in order to accept the null hypothesis for your model to be okay for you to run the IRFs. And I've showed you how to run the IRFs, impulse response functions, the various decomposition and historical decompositions, and various ways to explain it. So if you can't see that, if you've not known about it, you can watch our previous videos. You will be able to see all those. And now we are going to talk about the gradual causality test using the VAR. So it's a very simple step. After doing your estimations and your IRFs and the rest, you might want to do granger causality on all your variables. And looking from it, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 variables in our model. So we can look at different gradual causality, how to accept the null and when to reject the null and how to interpret it. So now you just click on view, and then you go on log structure. You see Granger causality block exogeneity test. So these are results for our Granger causality test. So what this one tells is the null hypothesis is exchange rate does not Granger cause inflation. This one is all share index does not Granger cause inflation. This one is credit to private sector does not Granger cause inflation. This is government expenditure does not Granger cause inflation. This is money supply does not Granger cause inflation. So the null hypothesis exchange rate does not Granger cause inflation, and the probability test is 0.001. What are you going to do? You will reject the null. So the null is that exchange rate does not Granger cause inflation. You reject, which means exchange rate causes inflation. So that is your interpretation. From this, we will find out that exchange rate leads to inflation in Nigeria. While other variables, we can see that we accepted the null hypothesis because they are greater than 0.055% level of significance, which means these variables does not Granger cause inflation. So they do not cause inflation. Only exchange rates in our model cause inflation. So for all the all the variables in the equation, we found that they have a probability test of 0.0104. Using this now, you see that all the variables in the model, you are going to reject the null hypothesis and say, since exchange rates affect it, so the model is telling us that if you put these variables together, they actually cause inflation. They actually Granger cause inflation. So that is the interpretation for this. And then for exchange rates, then you have these variables. You see the value for inflation is 0.701, and it is higher than 0.05, which means you are going to accept the null that inflation does not Granger cause exchange rate. So you see it, exchange rate causes inflation, but inflation does not Granger cause exchange rate. So that is the interpretation for that. Then you see that all share in the stock does not Granger cause exchange rate, and then but credit to private sector actually Granger causes exchange rate based on our model, and then LM3 based on the 5% level does not Granger cause. So other variables does not Granger cause inflation because you're going to accept the null that they do not accept the credit to private sector. And then for all of them, the variables put together, we are seeing a value of 0.0003. So which means you are going to reject the null hypothesis that the variables all put together does not Granger cause exchange rate. So which means they actually Granger cause exchange rate. Then the next one we are seeing the value for all share index. Looking at all the values for all share index, you can see that they are all greater than 0.05, which means you're going to accept the null hypothesis that this inflation does not Granger cause stock index, exchange rate does not Granger cause stock, credit to private sector does not Granger cause stock, government expenditure. So which means you're going to accept the null hypothesis, and even all of them, all the models, all the variables put together is still the same thing. They do not Granger cause stock. So you go to credit to private sector, almost the same thing. You can see that all the variables does not Granger cause credit to private sector, and all of them put together does not Granger cause credit to private sector. So you go down. The next one is government expenditure. The only variable that show to Granger cause government expenditure is money supply. So money supply actually Granger cause government expenditure. And this is because you are going to reject the null here and accept the alternative that broad money Granger causes government expenditure, and then all of them put together, it is still higher than 0.05 but less than 10% level of significance, which means you're going to reject the null. You reject the null at 10%, but you have to accept the null at 5% and 1%. So that's the interpretation of this one. So this one, you can see broad money. You can see they are telling us that all the variable, all the variable does not Granger cause broad money. Inflation does not Granger cause it. Exchange rate does not Granger. Even stocks does not Granger cause it. Credit to private sector does not Granger cause it. So expenditure does not Granger cause it. And all these variable are the demand side properties of inflation. You can see that all the demand side, maybe our interpretation might be maybe it's more from the supply side that causes broad money. That's what you can say. So that causes monetary, I see broad money, broad money actually, monetary aggregates to increase. So that's what this is telling us. That is actually the interpretation of this. So, but maybe there is more structural reason why this result is like this. So you can, that's based on your policy recommendations. You can say, okay, this is what I found, that these variables does not actually going to cause broad money. So you have to tell reasons why it's like that, or what can be the reason why it's this variable does not actually. Maybe you have to look for something, a reason why it is so. There must be an underlying reason why it is so. So you can see here that they're telling us that broad money actually causes high government expenditure. So it causes government expenditure, but government expenditure, on the other hand, does not cause a broad money supply. Well, we know that most of broad money supply is from central bank activity. Central banks activity. And which of them? What are mostly central banks activity is the MPR, OPR, open repo rate, and so we didn't put open repo rate in this model because it's more of it was not stationary at I1, so we had to remove it just for the fun of the teaching, just to follow normal the a priori of most of these models. But if you put MPR or OPR, I think we might see a causal relationship within this M3 and the other variables. So I think that's the major interpretation to this. So these are the reason why you have to know more of economic a priori, more of a economic theory in order for you to do a better and robust econometric analysis. So you have to find reasons and get a very subjective reasons why your result, and give good interpretations to your model. So thank you for listening to the Granger, how to do Granger causality test in VAR, and how to do the various interpretations, and know when to reject the null and when to accept the null, and then make your decisions based on that. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like, comment, ask questions, share to your friends, and we are going to grow this YouTube channel together. Thank you for listening.